While there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of cachers in the US alone, there are only a handful of EarthCache reviewers. And I asked one of them a simple question. What makes your role difficult? In this video, I'm sharing an EarthCache reviewer's point of view and his thoughts on EarthCaches, so you can avoid common mistakes, submit better EarthCaches, and reduce your own frustration. Now, all of these answers come from GeoAware USA 9, or I'll just refer to them as 9 from now on. And turns out 9 provided me enough material that I need to split it into 2 separate videos. Also, the idea for this video goes to AweSnap, a subscriber and friend of the channel. He's always coming up with great things for me to look into. Okay, I'm not a reviewer, but I can imagine that their role in approving EarthCaches can range from easy to difficult, depending on the submission. I can also imagine that it's a very thankless volunteer position. So to all of the reviewers out there, thank you for what you do. All right, on to the wisdom. First item up on deck, and he did say that this is in no particular order, is taking your submission rejection personally. So he told me, I'm here to publish EarthCaches. I want to hit that green button as often as I can. But geocaching headquarters and the GSA have specific guidelines about what they want to see. When something doesn't fit, it's my role to point it out. Some people get defensive and think I'm out to kill their good idea. I'm not. But not everything is publishable, and sometimes the answer is just no. When that happens, I'm not saying you're a bad geocacher or a puppy kicker. It just means that listing can't go forward. When it's a no, but I try my best to point folks in the right direction and suggest resources to get it over the line. I love the way he starts out with, I am here to publish EarthCaches. If your submission gets kicked back, and a few of mine have in the past, I can understand why you get defensive and take it personally. You've probably put some time and effort into your submission. There's scouting the location, researching the lesson, developing the tasks. I get it. And I've heard similar sentiments from other reviewers. Another one told me a submission comes in, gets rejected, person gets frustrated, doesn't fix it, and never submits another. When that happens, especially if it's their first one, which in this scenario is likely, they probably then badmouth EarthCaches at every turn and potentially influence others never to try. They'll probably say something like, oh, it's too hard. And it's not really. As 9 says, your great idea doesn't mean it can be published. But your submission has to meet certain criteria. Perhaps you missed something simple during the process. You didn't realize that there was another EarthCache with a similar topic nearby, or that you need to get permission. Perhaps it's not in-depth enough. My advice, don't give the reviewer a reason to say no. Is it as simple as that? Probably not. But towards this goal, you need to have a good understanding of the guidelines and how to operate within them. And you have resources available to you, including the reviewers. If you're unsure of your idea or approach, or you have a question about the guidelines, reach out to the reviewers before you start. This can save you all sorts of frustration down the line. I did this once. I found an area that had tons of potential, came up with some ideas, and then I reached out to 9. He took some time. He came back to me and said, these will work, these won't. And I'd rather know that before I start so that I'm not wasting my time. Another resource you have available is me. Full disclosure, I'm not a reviewer, so just because I think it looks good doesn't mean it's guaranteed to get published. But I've been teaching this stuff and helping others for over 8 years, and there's a variety of ways that I can support you. My one-on-one classes are here on YouTube. I have a Google form that you can use to send me some information on a potential location, and I can do some initial analysis for you. You can send me your draft submission, and I can take a look. Again, not a reviewer, but I might spot something that you need to tighten up. And all of that is free. And links for all of that will be in the description, or you can just shoot me an email. His next point is on plagiarism. EarthCaches are supposed to be a unique experience. That doesn't mean only one EarthCache is allowed on the planet Earth about granite. But it does mean that if you come across a good EarthCache about granite, you can't go an hour or so down the road and paste the same description into a new listing. You have to do your own work and set your cache apart. This is also true for your own EarthCaches. You can't plagiarize yourself, but you can take the lesson you taught somewhere else, adapt it to a new area, reword it a little, maybe change a task, and that's fine. I like to think I'm pretty familiar with the guidelines, and one point of some personal friction has been the use of the term unique feature. The way 9 describes it here is more clarifying. Each should be a unique experience. Yes, there are literally hundreds of EarthCaches on granite. But yes, they should all be different, somehow unique or different, by the lesson or the task. But I have seen the literal word-for-word plagiarism of an EarthCache. In Georgia, there are 2 wetland EarthCaches about 90 minutes apart, with just a few words changed. I thought I was going crazy when I first looked at it. I couldn't believe my eyes. And the worst part is, the copied EarthCache isn't even in a good location for that topic, in my opinion. 9 brings up an hour distance apart. Now, for all of my EarthCache creators out there, if you were unaware, you must have a 60-minute separation by car between EarthCaches with similar topics. Okay, the time actually varies depending on the reviewer, but an hour is a good rule of thumb. But there's also a trick. Let's go back to our granite example. If there's an existing EarthCache on the color of granite, you can still do one. It would just have to be a different topic, like grain sizes or mineral composition, something different about granite. I do love the fact that you can't plagiarize yourself. But again, you can change the lesson or tasks to fit each area. This goes back to having EarthCaches be unique from one another. At this point, we're going to shift a bit from things that make a reviewer's job hard to a reviewer's advice for other cache owners. EarthCaches are supposed to be educational. Teaching that lesson does not stop after publication. That means COs should be working with the finder to fill in the gaps in submitted answers. I get answers all the time from cachers who don't get them all right. That's okay. In fact, that should be expected. A D in school is not a good grade, but it is a passing grade. EarthCaches should work the same way. As long as they make a reasonable attempt to get through the lesson, they get to keep their find. I might ask some follow-up questions to get them there, or I might just say, no, I was looking for this. But I don't delete their log as long as it's clear they were there and they tried. Here's my take on this subject. EarthCaches are supposed to be educational. Totally agree. That's the intent of the GSA. For geocachers to walk away knowing a little bit more about the geology around them. And EarthCaches are unique in this way, that there's an educational aspect involved. COs helping cachers. Now, I've actually found some of 9's EarthCaches, and on one, I didn't get all of the answers right. And he pointed out the stuff I missed, which I appreciate, but he didn't delete my log. He talks about folks making a reasonable attempt, and I 100% agree. Now, I'm not a geologist. I'd say the vast majority of geocachers are not geologists. So for me, a reasonable attempt is fine. Of course, I did a video on how I answer logging tasks, and I'll put the link for that in the description below. And I get it. There are some COs out there that will just kick back your answers for minute issues, and that's frustrating. I'm not sure what you can do besides simply avoid that person's EarthCaches in the future. So like I said before, this is only half of what the reviewer shared with me. There was enough insight to make a second video, and in that one, we'll get even more practical advice for EarthCache owners. Reminder, if you're finding these videos are bringing you value, hit that like button, be sure to subscribe, and perhaps share it with a friend that also enjoys EarthCaches. Thanks for watching. Oh, almost forgot. If you're into EarthCaches, take a look at the EarthCache bingo game I've got going on throughout 2026. I'll leave a link for that one in the description below.